Hello, welcome to a video lecture for Intro to Co-op on creating our first co-op resume. I'm sorry to miss our second class meeting on the topic, so thanks for understanding, and hopefully this video will cover all of the information as we would have in class. Prior to starting this video, you should have read through the chapter that I posted on Blackboard on resume preparation and creation. I also provided a PDF of sample resumes. Hopefully when you scrolled through this lengthy PDF, you identified at least one format that you felt might work for the information that you have to display on a resume. The chapter on resumes is also important as we consider the purpose of our resume when we're putting the information together. And we'll talk about that throughout each section today as well. This video is going to use the Resume Must presentation that is available on Blackboard, as well as the resume preparation worksheet that you completed for homework. And I'm also going to use Microsoft Word to create a resume as I go through the presentation for you. While watching this video, I encourage you to have your resume worksheet handy and have Word open so that you can pause the video and create your own resume piece by piece as we go along. So let's get started. We're going to look at the full resume and move through each section looking at the content and format in each section of the document. The first part of our resume is the header. It's pretty straightforward. It's this part of your resume that contains your name and your contact information and attaches your identity to your resume. The content of our header is pretty straightforward as well, and you'll see it listed on your resume worksheet. You're going to want to include your name. And for most of us, that's very straightforward. We start with our first name, followed by our last name, or our given name, followed by our family name. If you go by a nickname or a middle name, you might want to appropriately note that on your resume. The name on your resume should match the name on your outgoing voicemail, should also match the name on your email account. You're also going to include your UC email address. As you'll be participating in the co-op program as a part of your status at your student status at the University of Cincinnati, using your UC email address is most appropriate as it ties you to your student status here at UC. You'll use your phone number with area code and your street address. I recommend that we use our permanent street address for this first version of our resume, as we'll be moving forward with this resume over the next 6 months, and your address here close to campus might likely change. The format of your header should allow your name to stand out and make a strong first impression. Your contact information should be cleanly aligned and smaller than your name. It should be either in the same font or smaller than the font of the rest of your resume. So now we're going to switch to Microsoft Word, and we're going to get started creating our own resume. I'm going to start with a new blank document, and I'm going to have my resume worksheet printed next to me. Having looked at the sample resumes, I've gone through and picked out a format that seems like it might display my information well. Remember, your content dictates the format. So as you move through your resume, it's okay if you have to go back and change the format around a bit to best display your information. Don't try to squeeze your information into a format that doesn't make sense for the information you have. This is why we don't use a resume template. Most templates are not created for co-op students. They're created for experienced professionals who have additional information or additional sections of resume of experience that they want to include. So remember, your content dictates the format that we'll use or that you'll use. I typically make a resume in a table in Microsoft Word so that I can easily move and change the elements. So to get started, I'm going to insert a table into my document. I like to start with 3 columns, and I'm going to say 4 rows because that'll be enough to get us through the header, and then we can continue to add more rows as we go. Next, I'm going to select a font. I recommend selecting a sans serif font. Sans serif literally translated means no feet. You see the Cambria font, if we do a quick test here in our capital letters, how there's little feet on the bottom at the end of each letter, versus if we use a sans serif font or a font with no feet, that those lines, there's no horizontal lines on the end of the A. So hopefully you can see that. I recommend a sans serif font for your resume. It will give the document a cleaner look. So here, I'm simply going to move forward with this Avenir font because it's close by. But anything that's sans serif, like Arial, Helvetica, Calibri, as you saw on there, anything like that, that sans serif would be good. And again, font is something that will be easy to change afterwards as well if you want to experiment or try different things. So the format that I chose to move forward with has the name centered in the middle, in the at the top of the document. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the table right there. And I'm going to want to bold my name. And I'm going to try with 16-point font just so that that stands out. And again, we can always go back and change all of these elements. But to get started, that's a great place to be. And then I'm going to make sure that that is centered on my document and within the cell. One way to make sure that that's centered is if we highlight those 3 cells and we go ahead and merge those. And that creates one row, then I can center it. That way it's not centered within the cell, but it's centered across the table, so we can make sure that our name is properly aligned on our document. For the format I'm choosing, I'm then going to add my email address and phone number in the left-hand columns. So I'm going to start with my email address here, and that would be at mail.uc.edu. And you'll see as we'll come back and change that format, or we'll do that right now. As you see, when you add an email address and add a space, it automatically turns to a hyperlink. That's so that if I click on that, I can send an email right away. A really great feature to have on your resume. However, we don't want that to stand out more than your name. So I'm going to change the font of that back to black. And by using Control Command U, I'm going to go ahead and remove the underline so that doesn't stand out. And I accidentally clicked on that, so we're going to go back and change that. And you're in that, you want to make sure you should have all lowercase letters in your email address, and that way that should make the most sense for you here. Get that notification out of the window here in a second. Then, so we have our email address, then we're going to go ahead and add our phone number. You're going to want to include your area code in parentheses, a space, your 3 digits, a dash, and then your 4 digits. So there doesn't need to be any spaces around that dash in your phone number. And I'm going to go ahead and leave those both aligned left in our table. And that right now is 12-point font, so it's a little bit smaller, although it still looks large on the magnification that I'm using here. All right, and on the right side, I'm going to put my address in Starburst Drive. I'm going to go ahead and put my address in that right-hand column. And so you see when I added that, it went down to a second line. I want to keep that all in one line, so I'm going to select just that cell of my table and move my cursor, and I'm going to be able to pull that over so that it's still all on one line. That's, again, one of the benefits of using a table. However, I am going to want to in the format I'm using, I want my address and other information will be right aligned down the page. So I'm just going to go ahead and select those 2 cells and then align those to the right. So again, it lines up really nicely. We got the information all on one line and things like that. So hopefully you're starting to see the benefits of adding a table. And if we want to change the alignment later, we certainly can do that. If I want to choose to display my information differently or something like that. So that gets our header content on the page and formatted in a way that we're happy with right now. So let's move on to the next piece of